Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is David Pendleton, and this is going to be our full qualifying walkthrough for the rookie division of the Frosty Peaks tournament. So here we go again, another tournament. I'm very excited to share this walkthrough with you. I do believe I'm going to show you a lot of different ways to attack this course and help you qualify with a really good score, which is going to be important because we're seeing so many ties now. And, you know, those last prize chests come down to who had the better qualifying scores and opening round scores. All right, so here's what I'm asking of you. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I'm so close to 2,000 subscribers. I really just appreciate everybody, you know, who supports me week in and week out. If we can get to 2,000 before the next round, like, that would be super awesome. And secondly, if you find this video helpful, at some point, just click that thumbs up button. You know, that's easy to do. But let's talk about what you're going to get out of this video. First of all, I'm going to show you a couple different ways to attack a lot of the holes. So I've got this down to a conservative style. You know, if you have lesser clubs, if you don't like to play aggressive. And I've got a few holes if you like to play aggressive, if you have some berserkers to go through. I've got a couple different holes here I can show you how to really get a leg up on the competition. But regardless, let's go ahead and start off with hole number one. Hole number one is a very good opportunity to drop the eagle. And it's going to be a hole that we're going to have to eagle in order to compete for a top leaderboard position. Now, I will show you two different ways to play it. I do believe this way, the conservative way, in this round is the best way to play it. So we're going to use a navigator, and the reason we're using a navigator is because we don't need power, all right? This is such a short par 4. I wouldn't want to convince you to use anything else other than a navigator on this approach. We are pulling this one at 10% elevation. I'm pulling it at medium distance of my driver because I'm not in max distance of my driver at all. And you can see here, I'm just using a baby amount of curl to the right-hand side. We hit the fairway nicely. We roll up here, approach the top of the fairway, and that's going to be a very short shot with our thorn, at which we're going to play minus 10% on the second shot, and I'll show you that. But let's go into somebody who says, hey, like, I like to just go for it. Well, look how easy this is. And now, again, this is an extra mile 8, okay? But we're able to use a berserker here. And I want you to notice one thing is when I apply my top spin and my side spin, I am able to get my first bounce, which is where my target is. Look at my second bounce. Notice how it's right there on the fairway. And then obviously my third bounce shows me pointing up towards the green. If you go for this shot, you do have to understand the technicalities of it to make it work. You do want that second bounce to hit that fairway and then roll up. I think if you hit the rough on the second bounce, you're still going to be okay. But, you know, this was my first shot at it. So as you can see here, to me, this is a perfect setup. So I'm just going to pull my rings, and I am not going to push back up to max. Because theoretically, as long as I hit perfect, I should get the first bounce, the second bounce, and then roll up. So 1, 2, and then we roll up. If I would have pushed back up to max after I adjusted, I would probably clip the rough on my second bounce and then not roll up as far or get stuck in the rough. So if you are going for that shot, I wanted to show that to you. And I wanted to talk you through the setup of what we're looking for, because sometimes people see shots like that and they're like, oh, that's easy. You know, you're just using a power 5 ball and you're powering it up. Yes, it is easy, but there are a couple things you need to look at in the game and on the setup in order to make that shot work for you. But, you know, that shot does come with risk. Like I said, you could hit the rough, you could get stuck. You could hit a great shot and go into the sand. The first shot that I showed you, this is shot number 2. And what I like about playing it this way is it gives us a minimum distance thorn shot with pretty much direct tailwind. So right here, we're just able to apply enough backspin to still get our ball guideline to the cup. And we do play this at minus 10% elevation. This shot is uphill. You can see here I'm aiming dead center. I'm letting my ball guideline go through the pin. And when you get a wind situation like this, as long as you adjust your rings properly, it just comes down to hitting perfect. If you hit perfect, this ball is going in the cup, like every time. The only reason it doesn't with a perfect shot is if you don't pull your rings correctly and you don't have it lined up correctly. But you can see there we smacked the pin, we're dead center, and we're good to go on hole number 1. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with you on hole number 2. So hole number 2, I've got a couple different ways you can play it. In this situation, we have so much fairway to work with that when we pull our rings here, we do want to push back up to max. So if you want to go bombs away on this hole, here is the good part about it. You can't mess this hole up, okay? So let's say that you want to reach the bottom fairway and you want to take an overpowered shot to get there. And let's just say you screw up and you hit a great shot and you end up in the rough or whatever. You are still going to be able to make it to the green in 2. To whereas on hole 1, if you go for the green and you mess up the shot, you're still able to get to the green in 2, obviously. You're still able to pick up your birdie. But the difference is on hole number 1 is we need that eagle. We need to pick up that extra drop in order to win this tournament. So hole number 1 is a high-risk shot with a low reward, in my opinion. Hole number 2 is a higher-risk shot with a high reward. And because it's going to make our albatross so much easier if we can get down to the bottom part of the fairway. And it's like really low risk. Like you cannot mess your eagle up, which is what most people are going to get on this hole being a par 5. But you can see here I'm going with a berserker. Of course, I'm going full top spin. I adjust here at 10% elevation. And then to get as much distance on my drive as possible, I do push back up into max. I do go with almost full overpower. I will take a very slight great shot at most times in full overpower. And you can see here, we are able to use that slope and we are able to roll down onto the fairway even with a great shot. Puts us at 415 yards, and you can see that shot is significantly downhill that's getting ready to come up. Now, I would note here that if you're in that same yardage range as me, I want you to note that the game starts you off with a Goliath. But we are also getting a little bit of tailwind. Now, I was able to think about not taking this with a Goliath. I'd rather take it with a thorn. So I was able to pull back and be at max distance of my thorn, which I would much rather prefer to take this shot with this club. So 20% elevation. I'm playing it at max distance of my club. And you can see here, I'm using backspin to try to put my ball guide line through the cup. And it looks like I settle on about 0.8 bars of backspin. Again, this is adjusted at 20% elevation. And it stinks whenever that happens. So we just came in, just a tad bit too hot. But you can see there the elevation was good. I would stick with 20% on the elevation. I would just add a little bit more backspin because my ball came in too hot. So had we added a little bit more backspin there, maybe I get a little bit more smooth roll to the cup, and we drop that in for the albatross. Now, if you're a player who doesn't have a ball like that, and if you don't have that club power, it's really no big deal. What I would recommend here is to go with a katana, and I would not want to push this drive, okay? So you can see here that I'm not using full topspin. That is on purpose, because if I were to put full topspin on this ball and hit this ball further up the fairway, I would be in long iron range. So you'd have to be taking shot number 2 with your Goliath or with your backbone, and that is not what we want. We would much rather take it with our wood club. So I wanted to be in a certain range that I could get a sniper shot with. I hope that makes sense. So, not every single hole do you want to get as many yards as possible. You do need to strategize for shot number 2, which is what I did here. This is shot number 2. I want you to notice the elevation. The way this wind angle is, 50% elevation is going to play pretty good, I think, because I took the shot at 40% elevation. So what you're seeing right here is a 40% elevated shot with 5 bars of backspin. Ball guide line going through the pin. Unfortunately, hit a great shot to the right. Speed there looks good. So you might ask, why do I recommend 50% elevation? Well, okay, keep this in mind. Look at the setup, and a lot of people ask me, how do I figure out elevation in a tournament? Well, this is how. 1, I'm aiming dead center of the cup, okay? And 2, I pull it at 40%. So I'm pulling this 4.6 rings, even though the wind's only 4.2 miles per hour. Now think about this. I hit a great shot, barely. Look, it's almost perfect. It's almost perfect, but I hit a great shot to the right. And look where I miss. I missed to the left. So we have to learn from that. Now, normally when you hit a great shot to the right, you would normally think you're going to miss to the right-hand side. But we don't. We miss to the left. So we need to add elevation on this shot. I would play it at 50%. Now, I don't know if that means you're going to get the albatross or not, but I do think it's going to get you closer to the albatross with the perfect shot. So that's how I figure it out. That's how I tinker with things. Good luck on hole number 2, but I think we got enough here to get you off to a really fast start in the tournament, which takes us to hole number 3. Now, I did release a separate video for the par 3s, and I will walk you through what I'm doing here. I'm using a katana. I'm using 20% elevation at mid-distance of my club, and I am doing 20% as long as the wind is under 4 miles an hour. So here's why. Also, the spin that I am using is 2 bars of right side spin with about 0.9 bars of top spin. Notice my ball guide line is going through the pin. We hit a perfect ball, and we do drop this shot for a hole-in-one, which is nice because this was my first attempt at this hole. And we sneak it into the left-hand side of the cup. Now, that was at, 3.2 miles per hour. I want you to take a look at my other rookie account, and I get hit with, it was 3.4. And I get hit with 4.4 miles an hour. So this is about as high as you're going to get in rookie. I do the exact same spin, right, because we know the speed to the pin was good. 0.9 top and 2 right was a perfect speed. I do the exact same setup. And here's what we should note. I'm using a power 2 ball. I'm using 20%, and I'm playing at mid-distance. So you're going to see me pull this 4.7 rings. And I'm pulling this 4.7 rings because, remember, I'm playing at 20% elevation because it worked on my first shot. But the first shot was low wind. Now, with this higher wind, you see here, I get more of a kick to the left-hand side. So we just barely missed to the left there. So here's what I would do. Instead of offsetting your shot, if you get hit with anything over 4 miles an hour, I would just play this at 25% elevation. Yeah, I'd play it at 25% elevation. So instead of pulling 4.7, had we pulled 4.9, we would have more than likely snuck that in the left-hand side of the cup again. So long story short on this hole, instead of aiming dead center, you may just want to aim in the cup, just favoring the right-hand side of the hole. Inside the cup, 20% elevation if you're under 4 miles an hour, 25% if you're over 4 miles an hour, and I think that's going to do good for a lot of you. All right, so we're blazing through the first 3 holes. Now this hole I'm pretty upset with myself about because I hit great shots on both my accounts. And this should be a hole that we're able to eagle. And what we want to do is just get our ball down to the fairway there. So here's what I would recommend to a couple different player styles. One, if you don't have, a nice level extra mile like I do here, I would take this shot probably with a big topper, especially in headwind. I didn't take it on either one of my accounts because I have an extra mile 8. If you want to know how to level up your extra mile extremely quickly, go play the crap out of Tour 2. Play it over and over and over again. But that's only going to work if you have gyms. Because what you want to do is continue to just open chest nonstop. And about 20% of your chest in Tour 2 have extra mile cards in them. 1 out of every 4 golden chests, so gold chests in Tour 2, is going to have between 5 and 8 extra mile cards. A lot of people don't know that, but if you're in a non-competitive clan and you want to quickly just build up your extra mile driver, go to Tour 2 and just play the snot out of it, and you can level it up extremely quickly. Okay, but regardless, what we want to do is we just want to power the ball down the fairway here. And this should be easy to do, but unfortunately I hit a great shot and I clipped the rough. If you have to hit great, I'd have been better off with a great left instead of a great right, because that puts me right here clipping this side of the rough. But we still roll down and we're still on the fairway, so it's not a big deal. But what would have been nicer would have been to get to the bottom of this fairway here and be taking a very level shot with our thorn. I still get to take the shot with the thorn. I do play it at 10% elevation. And I would play it at 10% even if I get down to the bottom of the hill there. But you can see I'm using backspin. I got my ball guideline going through the pin. And a power 3 ball is not necessary for this hole. You could easily use a navigator. You could easily use a katana. But I was just trying to pick up as much distance as possible on a short par 4. And, when you miss like that, those hurt. So, shot would have been easier if I wasn't, pretty much playing a max distance shot. It would have been a lot easier if I would have been down the fairway. So, that's my biggest advice to you. Get down the fairway. But, we were very close, especially for, the qualifying rounds with the first look at the hole. Now we go into hole number 5. Hole number 5, I'll spend some time talking to you about. So hole number 5, we're playing 15% elevation. And we're using a power 1 ball. And we're using our Goliath. So 4.2 miles an hour. You're going to see me pull this one 2.1 rings, okay? I'm going to tell you how to get yourself set up for a hole-in-one. Notice my red ring here at the bottom is kind of up against the rough line with my ball guideline here. In that dark green square, I did not use any spin at all. So my ball guideline's in the dark green square, kind of favoring the left-hand side of the dark green square. Notice where the hole is. The hole is in that light green row. So if you're looking at, the hole vertically, it's in that light green strip. I am aiming to the right-hand side of the hole, but in the dark green patch, favoring the left-hand side. So, oh, come on. That's my setup point. All right, back to where we were, right there. You remember, I said we're going to pull this, 2.1, 2.2 ring, something like that. So what do we learn from that? We learned that we barely missed to the left-hand side, and we learned that a no-spin approach is going to work just fine. So you might be asking, okay, so what do you do? Well, here's what I would do if I were you, honestly, is I wouldn't change anything on this shot except the elevation. So I would play this shot right there. Like, that is exactly where I would aim if I got another chance to do this. The reason that I would continue to aim there is just because I know that that part of the green gives me a smooth roll because we saw it. The only thing that I would do is I would change this to no elevation. Because you can see that when we pulled at 2.1 rings, we were pulling to the left-hand side, and we missed left. If I would have just only pulled this at no elevation, which would have given me a 1.8 ring pull, we would have been talking about a hole-in-one. So that's what I would do if I were you. I would use this same setup point and just play at no elevation. That brings us on to hole number 6. Hole number 6 is probably going to be the most difficult par 5 for people in this tournament. I would recommend that you bring a big dog to this hole just to make the second shot easier. Now, if you're a player that has a sniper 9 or 10, you could play this with a sniper, and you could give yourself a good chance for an albatross. But the thing is, you have to execute the drive by hitting perfect, and you got to get good distance on your drive in order to make the sniper shot work. To me, since we're not able to dial in a shot from round 1 to round 2 to the finals like we used to do, I would just recommend bringing a big dog and just going for the eagle on this hole. Because a lot of opponents are going to mess this hole up. Because if you get stuck in the rough or the sand on your drive, you're not going to make it to the green in 2, which is going to leave you with a very long shot to try to pick up your eagle. Right here, my setup, I'm just kind of tucking my yellow ring up into the corner of that fairway patch there. I'm not overcomplicating the drive. I'm not using any curl. We're just taking a normal shot. I like to use a kingmaker on this hole just for the wind resistance, since we're getting back-to-back headwind. All right, 361 yards. Leaves us with a shot like this. Go ahead and play it full left side spin. You know, that ball guideline on a big dog can be deceiving. So you can see here I'm leaving it well short of the green. There is a slope there at the bottom of the fairway. As you can see, you get a downhill roll. So I'm just trying to make sure that I clip that and just roll down towards the green. I do pull the shot at 10% elevation, of course at max distance of my big dog. You can see there I was slightly going into overpower on my adjustment, so I use a baby amount of overpower with just a tad bit of curl to the left. And we catch this little slope down here. It pushes us down towards the pin and onto the green for a very easy putt to get our eagle on this long par 5. Now it's going to bring us into hole number 7. Okay, hole number 7, as you can see here, the game is giving us almost perfect headwind. This is a second best case scenario, in my opinion, when you're looking to get an extra drop. Best case scenario is perfect tailwind, but we'll take this. We are playing this 15% at medium distance of our club, which is also 1-for-1 with a sniper. So meaning 3.7 wind. We're going to play this 3.7 rings. Now, I played this hole the same way 2 times on both my accounts. Both my accounts I hit perfect. This is my second attempt at the hole. My first shot missed the right-hand side, and it missed probably by like a quarter of a green square to the right. And that was with 4 mile per hour wind. The one way to correct that on a shot like this would be to use what's called an 1159 pull angle, which is what you're going to see me do. So when you go to pull your rings, you normally want your arrow to be blowing exactly north. But it doesn't just sit there still. It's going to vibrate north to north right and north to north left. And sometimes it just skips all over the place in between those different angles. What I am choosing to do here, and you can see it right here in this screenshot, is I am making sure my wind arrow only blows one of 2 ways, north or north to north left. That is the only way I'm allowing this arrow to vibrate. By completely eliminating the north to north right, I know that I can't miss to the right-hand side, as long as I set up the shot correctly. 3 bars of backspin, aiming dead center. You can see I'm only letting that arrow go north to north left. We hit the perfect ball. And this time we're dead center. We hit the middle of the pin, and we pop it in for the hole-in-one. So That's what I would say about that hole. Not the easiest hole in one. I don't think it's an automatic gimme, but I do think it is something that we can get very close. And I would caution going for the rough bump. I don't think with this wind angle, this is a good rough bump opportunity because I know people will ask me questions about it. If you miss, this green rolls very fast, and you could put yourself into the bunker. So I would take the backspin approach like I did, because worst case scenario, if you don't get the hole in one, you are going to just pick up the birdie, okay? All right. Now let's talk about hole number 8. Hole number 8, I thought that I was going to play with a katana because I thought that I was going to lay up here like I normally do when I play this hole on Tour 8. But I saw that I was getting really good tailwind, like 4.4 miles per hour. At this point, you're going to see me switch to a berserker. Now, again, this shot is only going to be for somebody who wants to push the envelope, okay? You can see here that without pushing up to max, so like right now, I'm at max distance of my club, but I'm not pushing up into overpower. With full topspin, my ball guide line is on the fairway down there, so we are good. But I also have a lot of room. So from here, where I'm trying to land, all through here, there's a significant amount of room for me to overpower my shots, which is really nice. This is different than hole number 1. So this is an opportunity to where we can push the drive and have plenty of wiggle room. Now, what I would say is this is another hole to where even if you mess up going for this shot, you can still get down to the green in 2 and save your birdie. So I pulled this at 10% elevation, and I want you to notice I did not push up to max. Now, you might be wondering why. Don't I want to get as much distance as possible? Yes, I do, but I also don't want to have a crazy shaky needle with my berserker. So instead of pushing back up to max, I'm going to go with a controlled overpower shot, because you may or may not know, depending on your knowledge of the game, that when you push back up to max, when you become in max distance of your driver, and you go for an overpower shot, your needle's going to be really fast, okay, and shaky. But if you don't push back up to max and you're not in maximum distance of your driver anymore, like we are here, you can go with a much more controlled overpower shot with your needle, which is what I chose to do. The only thing that I would have done differently is I should have went full overpower, which I didn't do here. Full overpower, I might have been able to go from fairway to fairway and roll even further down. But regardless, we end up with a really nice shot and a really good chance to pick up the eagle here. So this is going to end up being played with my wedge. I wanted to try to go with a max topspin approach, but you can see here, you're not going to get a good developed ball guideline. So now I decided to take a backspin shot. I played at 20% elevation. I'm just trying to get my bounce into the hole, just like that. Again, I pull this at 20% on the elevation. And that's like a come on, you got to be kidding me type of situation. Thank goodness that's not the finals, or else I'd have had a meltdown. But hey, regardless, it's a really good chance to try to pick up the eagle right there. Now, if you're a player who doesn't want to go for that and you want to lay up, you want to go conservative, here's a way you can go conservative. Now, I went aggressive on both my accounts, okay? So the shot that you're seeing right here is from tour play. But the wind is kind of similar, so we're going to get a little bit of tailwind here. But I'm just going to show you how to lay up on this hole and how to play shot number 2. So here, you're just going to use a little bit of spin to just make sure that you lay up on the top part of the fairway. Now, a lot of times when I go for this shot here, I play this drive at 15% elevation. In a rookie tournament, the difference between 10 and 15% isn't going to really matter, to be honest with you. But what you want to do is just get the ball up to the top of the fairway here and let it stop right before the rough. Shot number 2 is extremely downhill. You play at 40% elevation. So 40% elevation, and what I always do is I try to spin it right into the hole. So in this situation, I'm using backspin. And then, like I said, a 40% elevation pull. And then we're able to sneak that into the cup. So there's 2 different ways to approach this hole. You just depending on your game style of how you want to go about it. Now, that brings us into hole number 9. Hole number 9, I do want to say here that, again, we are getting good wind. And if you want to push your drive, you could go for this shot here. Okay, so you could try to get from this fairway, roll out of that rough down to this part of the fairway here. That's one way you could approach this hole with this wind. But, you know, when I was looking back at previous tournaments, one of the other tournaments on Rookie Division, which is what I always do before I play a tournament, like I kind of study my past tournaments, there is a rough bump down here that we can go for, which plays really nice in Rookie, but it is more aggressive, and I'll show you why. So here I'm using a Kingmaker, and the only reason that I'm using a Kingmaker is because I knew in advance I was going to go for a rough bump on shot 2. And by using a Kingmaker, you get that wind resistance 3, which is a big advantage when you're going for those extra drops. So 10% on the drive, and then 10% on shot number 2 as well, okay? I could have pushed the drive a little bit harder. I wasn't sure how the fairway was going to roll there with that Kingmaker, but I left plenty of room on the fairway to push it even harder if you want to. But this leaves us for shot number 2, 10% elevation, and you're going to see here that I'm just spinning my ball into the hole. So 1 bar left side spin, you know, about 3.7, 3.8 bars of top spin. I'm trying to get the ball in the middle of the cup. Perfect ball. And sort of interesting here that, you know, we miss about half of a green square to the left. That's okay. That's something we can learn from. But, you know, rough bumps aren't for everybody, especially when you have that narrow strip. And I just want to show you what can happen if you hit a great ball, okay? So here you can see I'm using a different ball. I'm using about the same amount of top spin, but, you know, I kind of reduced my left side spin in half to kind of see what would happen. And if you're wondering why I used a katana, it was an accident. I walked away from my iPad and I didn't realize the hole started, so I had to hurry up and rush my shot. But here we're going for the rough bump. And I did something that's easy to do. I hit a great shot to the left. And when you do that, you miss the rough and you're flying the ball into the wrong rough. So anyways, I would say, you know, kind of decide on how you want to do it. The rough bump absolutely gives you the best chance for an albatross on this hole. And I do think it's one that we can dial in. You can just learn from me missing to the left-hand side there. With my speed to pin was pretty good. Maybe just a click more top spin and we'd have been fine. Anyways, that is the qualifying round win. There's enough content in here for you to go out and smash it as long as you hit perfect shots. please subscribe, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you'd like to donate to my channel, if you appreciate the time that I put into this for you, you can always find a link to my PayPal in the comment section below. Best of luck, everybody. Thank you.